Uh, by 3, 2, 1, you mean I'm live, right?
Oh, yeah, you're live.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that. Welcome to another episode of Camera and Flask, where I'm joined with two wonderful gentlemen, including Jem Schofield, the one with the lovely bald head, like myself. We got Mr. Ben Barden as well, with the luscious, thick hair.
No, it's not. It's
Uh-oh.
going. I'm heading your two's way soon. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
I reckon I can maybe squeeze another year out of it, but I know.
Ooh. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. And on that sad note, we're going to get this show started. Good to see several people in the chat already. We've got Bart, always. Bart's always here. It's amazing. Love him. Small Brown Fox, of course. Kevin. Jake. Shiz, excuse me. Name change. And already he's dropping a €2 donation. Thanks, brother. Get this show on the road. Well, we're ready to do that. Hello, Sam, as well. So, we're gonna jump in here in a little bit. We're gonna pick up some beverages, and we're also going to dive into today's show, which is going to be open mic or open chat, where we're just gonna do kind of Q&A, let the conversation flow, ebb and flow wherever it goes. So, thank you for joining us. And how about we dive in a second? How you guys doing and what you drinking? Want to start with Ben?
Yeah, doing good, and going to be drinking the old cooking whiskey out of the decanter again this week. The wine was good last week. I think that is the ideal drink for this time of day and the show, because I can drink that. That still keeps me pepped up throughout the show, and I can then drop back to sleep again straight after. So the wine was good last week, but I've drunk it all, so we're back on this.
Nice.
So this is the for those of you that don't see me drinking this every other week, this is the Lidl's own Queen Margot 5-year-old blend, which costs, I don't know, less than $10, and is great. I'm just gonna do a K11. Whoa, that is a big pour. Never mind. Right.
Small Brown Fox, I thought the same thing when he did that close up.
Oh my goodness!
Right. So Jem, what you got?
It's unbelievable. Small Brown Fox.
Yeah, that leaf.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and get out of focus. Is that going to come in?
Okay. Well, we're not judging you, but we're just making
chains and stuff. I don't know.
It's amazing. So here we are, and another week. And first of all, thanks to everybody who comes to Camera and Flask, and here we are on the channel. If you are new for some reason, please subscribe. We have some good content here every once in a while. Probably every month and a half or so, there's something worthwhile for you to check out. And I'm going to let you choose.
Better odds than the lottery.
Maybe 2 months. Yeah, better odds than the lottery. You get to choose which I'm going to drink today. So my first one comes from Japan. This is a Hibiki. I've had this before, so that's number one. We've got
don't even need to see the second one.
We got the Slane Triple Cask, which I've had this. That's the Irish whiskey, and then the Proper 12. This is like 5 points, Gangs of New York kind of whiskey. So any choices right there? We've already got a vote from Caleb on the Hibiki. I'm not saying I wouldn't drink
I'm with
it.
him.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I'd go for the Japanese one. Yeah.
All right, fine. Screw this. I'm just doing it now because nobody's answering. Let's go. Okay, pouring it up, and I got a nice glass going. And Caleb, what's your pleasure today?
So today, I'm doing a beer, and this is Rocktown Brown. Let's see if I get that focus there.
There we go.
This is from Prairie Street Brewing Co. Right there in Rockford, Illinois, and they just started canning as a way to stay alive in all of this madness. So if you're in the Illinois area, drive up there. They have a gorgeous building. It's beautiful, right on the river. Awesome food too. They have like a restaurant there and all kinds of stuff. So I'm gonna crack this open. I've had it multiple times. I've gotten it in growlers multiple times, and it's delightful. Anyone familiar
sorry,
with?
Can I just rewind a second? You got it in a what?
A can.
In a growler, you said.
Oh, growler. That's a what is that? A liter and a half? In the
Yeah.
you don't have growlers over there?
Okay. Well, we have growlers, but that means I think something entirely different. I guess I'm not even going to go there about you maybe could drink that. I know we'll leave it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, here in the States, a growler is a kind of universal size. I would say 1.5 to 2 liters, glass.
Yeah.
And most places, most breweries, you can buy them there. But if you bring your own in, you get discount and all that good stuff.
I don't know if I was supposed to have a drink of it. I already took a sip because I was so excited about it. But just a big shout out to Rob, one of the biggest contributors to the channel, and another super chat for Canadian $5 going to the coffee machine contribution for the new studio. So you're definitely on the plaque, my friend. You're definitely on the plaque.
Beautiful.
Okay. All right. So here we go.
And Jago, what you've translated that as, that also means something else in American and England. So I'm not sure that's going to help anyone.
Whoa.
All right.
Whoa. Hey, we have fanny packs over here. Okay. And
that
cheers.
means something else.
Cheers.
I do know what fanny pack means. Fanny means, Ben.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, enough. Okay. Yes, it's like a moonshine jug, and you go down to the local supermarket or to a place that is a growler, and like we have them, tap houses all over here, and you just walk in with your growler and fill it up, and it's always cheaper than...
Take it up to the bar, fill it up.
Come home. Get some good bacteria inside of you. That's beautiful. All right. Well, everybody, it's a beautiful day outside here in Oregon. What, we're doing it again?
I don't know if this is is heresy.
Oh, yeah, that's not bad. I've got a wooden paddle for you. Don't worry.
Small brown fox, walk in with your growler. See, there's a few northwestern English people in tonight. That's Small brown fox is a Manc, and Jay goes in from also the northwest, from the Lake District too. So
yes,
I feel like I'm not quite the odd one out tonight for once. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know about this whole growler thing. Right, so let's do this, shall we? I'm counting on you, chat, to give us some topics. Give us some what's on your mind, what's on your heart. How you feeling? What do you want to talk about? I don't know. And then do we want to kick off with a question that you got via email? Open the mailbag, the C47 mailbag?
Yeah.
Or do you want to say that for later, Jem?
No, I think it should kick things off. We got one through the contact form on the C47.com. It's the only question that came in through before the show. And one piece of advice to everybody would be, if you have a specific question that you think is best started by one of the three of us, just put an at the C47 and at Caleb Pike or at Ben Barden. And then that way, or you can do Jem Schofield, doesn't really matter. Or just at Ben, at Caleb, at Jem. And then we'll know it's for us. And I think that's about it. Let's get going. I'm excited.
Right on. So, you received a question from Jake via email. And he says, I was wondering if you guys have any advice working with companies. As a small YouTuber, less than 1,000 subs, I recently have been reached out by some knockoff Chinese companies to review their mics and their version of the Bowling P1 RGB light. Not sure if there's anything contact-wise I should draft up for something like this, or just accept the product and review it. Thanks for the great show as always. Great question. That's a whole thing that to figure out for yourself when it comes to ethics behind all of that. And I'll just go ahead and jump in, and then Jem and Ben, feel free to dive in as well. So what I ended up doing, because there's all kinds of stuff, like big companies eventually, start reaching out to you. Smaller companies, everyone has different terms, different things they want, there's expectations on both sides. So what I ended up doing, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, was I put together just a copy paste thing that I send to anyone who's asking for a review, if I'm going to even accept it, if it kind of gets to that phase. And one of the items in there, actually a couple, I mean, there's a whole list of stuff that I essentially let them know. So again, it's kind of like pre-production when you're working with a client. You just want everything out on the table and everyone to know exactly what's going on. So in this case, you know, you need to figure out if you're okay with just accepting stuff for free and the ethics of that versus being paid for something. So I don't have the list up in front of me, but a couple things that I send them is just letting them know, you know, you can send me stuff. That's totally fine. It's nice if we can, you know, hang on to it for future testing and stuff, but no sweat otherwise. And then just a couple ethics things, like I never allow them to view the video before it goes live, but I do also let them know if there's a problem with the light or with the whatever. I'm not just going to, you know, smear them all over the internet. I'll usually get in touch with them and figure out, see if it's a one-off or other issues like that. So I think it's really good to sit down, think about, you know, where you stand on a lot of this stuff, because, you know, there's not necessarily the wrong way to go about it or the right way. There's definitely awful ways and great ways, but figure out what you're comfortable with. Put together some kind of list that you can send people who request this type of stuff. And yeah, that's probably how I'd go about it. What do you think, Jem?
I think you have to determine what type of channel, or more importantly, what type of content you're trying to create. And that's really important in the big picture, because if you think you want to do a lot of comparisons between different products, then going down the route of accepting with conditions this type of product would be something that you'd probably want to do, especially if you wanted to compare it to other people's products in the same category. But if you're being lured by free product, don't do it for that reason. And definitely don't go down the rabbit hole of, oh, can you buy it off of Amazon and, you know, give us a review and then we'll reimburse you for buying it off of Amazon. That's definitely something to stay away from, in my opinion. You know, I think that you just have to be careful. And generally, I'm not going to say 100% of the time. It's definitely not 100%, because there's a lot of great quality product coming out of China across the boards. But generally, you should probably do a little bit of your own research before you have the product come in, and just get an idea of what it is. Because there's a question a little bit further up related to a product that I'm not familiar with, which I guess competes with or is in the same product category as the Wireless Go from Rode. And I'm just wondering how much that product costs. I'm kind of answering that question, or starting to right now, because it's in the same kind of subject matter. Because the Wireless Go is $199. So if that product's $125 or $150 US, I'm almost 100% going to go with the Wireless Go, because I know it's from a reputable company. I can usually get product support. I know that there's lots of reviews and that people are, you know, using that product day in and day out. Unless I'm intrigued about whether or not there's, you know, something really different about the product. Is there one key feature that the other product doesn't have? Then that might catch my attention. Okay, sorry about that. That was long.
That was good.
Makes sense.
Anything to add, Ben?
Well, it's obviously something that I have to come up with all the time. I think once I went from sort of 39 to 40 subscribers, I started getting just inundated with people wanting to send me stuff, and so.
But you and your buddy ran a podcast, right? And so you probably had to deal with some of this stuff.
Yeah, no, we did.
Sponsors, all that kind of thing.
We were never sponsored. We always just did it, but we used to get kit, particularly software subscription stuff, plugins, that kind of stuff. But again, it's just that whole thing of not whatever you do with that stuff is keeping some integrity, and that's not going to come back and bite you at some point in the future. You know, particularly someone like you whose channel is based on the fact that you do these reviews that are trustworthy and people listen to you and trust you and value your opinion on stuff because you haven't done anything shady or you've kept it well hidden if you have. You know what I mean? It's that would be the thing that would always be of massive concern with accepting, you know, product for review, and but exactly what you said, just making sure that everybody knows exactly what the deal is from the beginning, that you're not going to be under any obligation to do anything favorable. You're not going to give them editorial control over whatever you're doing. Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe when I get sort of 41, 42 subscribers, I think, you know, I might have to put this in. Yeah.
Nice. One last note, and then we'll move on that. Another thing to consider is, Jake, if you're in here, or anyone who's considering this stuff, is, you know, just because you have requests coming in doesn't mean you have to do any of them. It can be tempting, especially when you're starting out, like, ooh, a free light, that'd be kind of dope.
Yeah.
But if you're not careful, that turns into, you know, down the road as you grow, now you're just everybody's promo guy. And, you know, those videos don't necessarily do as well as kind of an original idea that is a little more broad. So just something to consider, or just include it in a tutorial, you know, how to use 10 ways to use RGB lights and then use that light.
Yep.
It's another.
Love it.
Yeah.
Great. Great.
Let's see here. Scrolling up a little bit. Somewhere, here we go. 360 grad favorite F/T stop for film and or commercials. So if each of you guys had to stick with one aperture setting for the next 10 years, what would it be? For commercial or film?
Go on, we'll go to Jeff, then he's waving.
Well, I just want to bring up, it totally depends on your format. You can't really just make that decision. You know, are you micro four thirds? Are you APS-C Super 35? Are you full frame? Are you medium format? That does have an effect on what lenses you're choosing. You can absolutely get a similar field of view and depth of field from, you know, different focal lengths on different sensor sizes, but, you know, it really is first determined by, I think focal length is almost just as important as making the decision in terms of what f-stop you're going to be shooting at. You know, traditionally, yeah, I think, and that's always going to have something to do with the size of your space. It's going to have something to do with the size of your format. Again, sensor size, film size. So, you know, I would say that if I was going to say APS-C / Super 35 to full frame, I gravitate to sort of focal lengths that sit between 18 and 85 millimeters. But if I had to hone it down, I'm probably in the 23 to 40 millimeter range for those two formats more than anything else when I'm shooting. And if I had to choose, I would probably say about a 27 or 28 millimeter at probably a 2.8 on a Super 35, and probably a 40 millimeter on a full frame at a similar, you know, obviously I'll get shallower depth of field, but we change focal lengths a lot. But yeah, I'd say I sit between a 2 and a 4 most of the time when I'm shooting, unless I'm trying to establish a deeper depth of field, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing. But you have to do it. It has to be well composed. It has to, you know, be a pretty frame for that to work. Otherwise, open up your lens to hide shit. That's what I got.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing to note with this is, Jago saying, I can't think of any situation where 1.4 isn't the answer. The thing with this is that you have to remember too is that most lenses are not in their sweet spot at that either. So if we are looking at having a deeper depth of field, and even when we are, you know, focusing off into the distance, you can still do that with the lens wide open, obviously, but it's going to be much sharper. Like every lens has, it's normally around sort of 5.6 to sort of 8, where 8. That lens is really, it starts to drop off again after that, but that tends to be where that lens is performing at its best. So it depends entirely on what you're doing, and focal length more important, I would say, in a lot of cases. And yeah, I mean, I shoot a lot of stuff, you know, when I'm looking out into the distance. So I'm often at that kind of more like 4, 5, 5, 6. there's often things that I'm doing, and also if you're shooting wide open, you're giving yourself absolutely no room, depending again on your focal length, and the longer the focal length, the more trouble you're making for yourself. In that, if your talent's moving at all and you're coming in and out, I feel that's had its day. Everyone was doing that. It kind of pisses me off. In and out. Yep. It's just
the 5D days.
Cinematic because it's out of focus. It's like adding the T35 bars onto everything.
Yeah.
Because it's cinematic. Jago. These are.
Yeah. I think
1.2 in and out of focus.
Yeah.
I think when I started, I would, especially with larger sensor, I would stop down, especially when shooting interviews and doing things, because I was terrified of talent going out of focus. And then as time goes on and you get more comfortable, you start to open up a little bit. I like to shoot interviews at a 2.8 if I can, and I think that looks really nice. I don't feel compelled to shoot at a 1.4 or even a 2 generally, but I think I'm usually a 2.8 to 4 or a 2.8-4 split when I'm shooting interviews. That tends to be where I'm sitting for that kind of stuff. And I also think that now I'm much, and I can see that, from the work that both of you do, that I think that we think about our space a lot more. I do now than I used to. So when I'm thinking about how I'm designing a frame, then I can be more purposeful and I don't feel compelled to open up to a 1.4. I can shoot something at a 4 and have and very oftentimes, especially for you and I, Caleb, we're shooting things with product on a table. We can't shoot wide open, even on the zoom lens, because we need to make sure that the product that we're picking up and what we're using is actually in focus. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll take A cam and I might be shooting that at a 4, 5, 6 split. But what I'll do is I'll take B cam on a longer lens and I'll open that lens up but drop the ISO down. Sorry about that little... What's this? You hit the nail. What is going on here? That's a smirk. It's a Caleb smirk. I'm going to stop talking. What's going on, Caleb?
I'm
Tell
just
me.
smirking at Jago.
Okay.
He's like, I don't know in what world 1.4 isn't the answer. And then he said the same thing with 235.
This is kind of an ongoing thing between me and Jago. We work together a lot, and it's something that comes up frequently.
When he does edits for you, is there always like Lord of the Rings music? To the scenic shot.
That's great.
Cool. Man.
We both subscribe to the same music library, so we often end up with the exact same stuff.
Nice.
Music-wise.
Well, since
equally awkward.
What you guys said is, I agree with all of it. That said, 2 to 2.8. I do like a good f2. I feel like it's a nice kind of happy medium. Just going down the list here. The next one is Aaron. He asked me just upgraded G9 to the V-Log L upgrade. What are your thoughts in regards to using V-Log versus HLG versus natural profiles on Micro Four Thirds cameras? For me, the answer is always V-Log and nothing else. If the camera shoots V-Log and it's Panasonic, that's what I'm using. And I love it. I usually shoot at around 40 IRE. Depending on the situation. 45, you can go up to like 50 to 60 if you want to then pull everything down to remove noise. Color to me looks great. Use the Panasonic LUT. Maybe do a little grade before the LUT and after if you need to. And then usually what I do is just throw on the LUT, bring highlights up, midtones down, and then play with the shadows a little bit. That way you get a not super crunchy look. Natural's okay. HLG, I don't know why people use that.
Me too. What a bunch of bullshit. Sorry, I didn't say that out loud. Hybrid log gamma is for broadcast.
I know.
It's not a soccer match. Football, sorry.
Avoid Cine like D like the plague. That'll just give you Trump skin. And that's all that. You guys seen any other questions here? I'm scanning.
There's a lot near the top. And I will hybrid log gamma. Come on, that's designed for broadcast. That's designed for a different delivery medium. If we're taking footage and we're bringing in, then I agree with you for Panasonic Log. I would say that the exception, if you're doing Fujifilm and you know what you're doing, then I think that the film simulations are an interesting workflow. But that also gives you the ability to ride your DR or dynamic range, and you can set it to DR 400, and you can get some pretty great results out of that. So it depends, but yeah.
Yeah. With HLG, I used to be on the same page, like just raging against the whole HLG thing. But more and more, I'm like, you know, if your end product makes you happy, and that is a key to your end product making you happy, then knock yourself out. But I just sit back and laugh at the whole HLG storming YouTube. Like everyone's like, HLG is the best.
Yeah, yeah. And it used to be
sense.
that everybody was
Exact
shooting
opposite of
log.
what you're using.
And everybody used to shoot log and not grade it and just put up log footage. Yeah, so, you know, what are you going to do?
And that was a Sony thing as well, because this thing that you were saying, always the log, and with a lot of and now things are generally better, but like, using the A7, they were out like that. The data rate wouldn't cope. Like the internal codec that was using just wasn't up to dealing with the log. So you're actually better off using one of the other color profiles in the camera, because it would just fall apart. You know, there just wasn't the data there. It was shooting in log, but there wasn't the information there when you started trying to grade it. So,
yeah. Camille says, Ben Caleb Gem, I use a small room for online classes, bass traps, suppress bass buildup, but are there any tips to bring this back even more? Caleb, any advice on that?
Dealing with acoustics.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that, and I'm trying to find the comment.
I think he wants to suppress the bass buildup in the space. So he has some bass traps to suppress it, but he's wondering if there's anything else to bring that back even more. It's kind of
One thing I would check is play with your mic placement, or try different mics. Sometimes there's some bad voodoo going on in your room, and maybe, like for instance, I have a white foam board here, and sometimes if the mic is just an inch to one side with like a shotgun, you'll get some funky stuff. Or if you're filming with a table, like there's things that it's not the acoustic treatment, it's like a surface nearby. Yeah. And cheaper microphones usually can be a problem there. You can check with an EQ. So if you search on YouTube, EQ, what's the term I'm looking for? Like EQ dialogue. Mm-hmm. You'll find some tutorials from Curtis Judd where you bring up a spike in your EQ and you just slowly move it across the frequency range. And often you'll find this really awful area. Sometimes that can be, again, sound bouncing off of something vibrating and rattling and hitting your microphone that only the camera's picking up and whatever. Otherwise, bass traps are helpful. Try to get your microphone closer. A lot of that stuff goes away when you do that. Yep. For me, I just throw a billion sound blankets at it. So vocalbooth2go.com I think is the cheapest, most effective way to deal with acoustic treatment. And you can use them like bass traps too.
Yeah, and I'd also like to say that when you... hello, we got a super chat. $4.99. And thank you so much. Is it Aaron? I believe. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. And long-time watcher of the recorded sessions, first time live. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for the super chat. That is awesome. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If not, phonetically spell it out. And pleasure to have you here. So the simple thing is the clap test, right? And this kind of supports what Caleb was talking about, where you can have the Native American burial ground. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean sort of like the voodoo thing that he's talking about, where you have these weird spaces inside of, you have these weird pockets acoustically inside of your space. If you walk around and you do a clap test, you'll start to hear where you have problems and where the room starts to sound deader. And depending on how much flexibility you have in terms of how you set up your space, you may be able to move yourself just slightly in terms of where you're setting up and where that mic is to get rid of those problems as well. Just saying. And then always get the mic as close as humanly possible, but outside of the frame. Yes. Okay. Cool. All right. What's next?
Nice.
Oh, somebody asked about that virtual production stuff. Did you see that one up there, Caleb?
I saw them talking about it. I didn't really dive into it. Did you?
It was a question that related to Matt Workman and what's happening with virtual production and doing stuff with Unreal Engine and things.
Screens.
And do we think that that's going to trickle down to indie production? I think the answer is yes, because that's exactly what Matt Workman is doing. I think the whole idea is if you're willing to make some investment into a space and some relatively simple equipment, it's going to be a lot of learning on your end. Don't think you're going to just buy the things that Matt Workman is working with and you're going to know what the hell you're doing. But it is eventually some very smart people are going to be able to do that on a smaller scale for clients. And I think it's definitely going to be interesting in terms of what they do. And also another super chat from Benjamin Roland. Amazing. Thank you very much. And the question is, thoughts on the Comodo finally being shown off? So let's get into that, gentlemen. Holy moly. Hey.
I haven't watched all the videos that came out. Have you guys?
No.
I've watched a lot.
Have you?
Yeah. So
it's
I
all
have
you
a
then.
weird thing. Well, look, here's the thing. I am actually intrigued by Comodo. I think that it's a really interesting camera from Red. It's the first camera, partially because of the price and point of entry, but some of the things that it can do that I've been reading about and listening to Phil Holland and some other people that I think, oh, okay, that's a camera that if I wanted to get into the Red ecosystem, it would be a really interesting camera to go into. I love the size, the form factor. I love the fact that you can build a larger or smaller camera from it. I don't know if it's unique in today's market. And the thing that's really interesting is there's always going to be problems with every single camera system. Even the C500 Mark II, they're doing tests now at different ISOs and finding that there are problems when you're in full frame versus Super 35 and all kinds of things are, they're not horrible things, but they're things that you need to know about with your camera system. But quite honestly, I've seen some beautiful footage and I've seen some footage that doesn't excite me. And the reality is that, let's just be honest and call a spade a spade. Pretty much anybody who knows how to compose well and knows something about lighting can take a camera that costs anywhere above $1,200 to $1,500 US, and they can probably create great looking footage. So you can't just look at footage online now and say, I want to buy this camera, because it has a lot to do with the person who's shooting that footage. In fact, it has pretty much everything to do with the person who's shooting that footage. And I would argue that you could have somebody go out with a 5D Mark II and they could go and get footage that would rival, with maybe not as much dynamic range, the footage that's coming off of Comodo. So it doesn't mean it's anywhere near as good of a camera. It doesn't mean when you get into post and resolve that you can do anywhere near what you could do, and you're going to have all kinds of issues because of 8-bit and banding and all of that stuff. But don't look at the footage as the reason to buy the camera. Look at the way the camera works in terms of its ecosystem, the things that it attaches to, what you're going to be using to work with that footage in post. And I think those things have a lot more to do with whether or not you're going to get what you want out of a camera system than the fact that it's just a new camera. That's my thought, but whatever.
Nice.
It's an exciting thing for sure. It's definitely something I would love to have a play with before long, but
yeah,
I haven't seen an awful lot of the videos from it yet. I think the only thing I've seen that's been shot on it was the Saturday Night Live thing they did with Brad Pitt.
Yep.
The cold open.
Nice.
That was it.
I mean, I would say that I'm very excited about RAW, formats, and especially Blackmagic RAW, and I think Red does a great job with their RAW implementation. I really think that if you look at all of these cameras, as long as you have a relatively high data rate in your camera system, 400 megabits or higher, even 300, and you're in 10-bit 422 land, what is there that you can't do for most of the things that we're doing, especially if you're shooting in log and wide gamut? I think, well exposed, most of what we produce can be handled in that realm. And then, of course, if you're shooting a television show or a commercial or a feature film, you're going to try to eke out the most out of that system, and you're really going to start to go into RAW land and all of that stuff. But you can go into RAW land with a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera now. So we're in ridiculous times, yeah. Caleb, what do you think about that in terms of not just the Comodo, but just sort of that whole area?
Yeah, I think you're right. I feel like RAW used to be the unobtainium for those on a budget, but now it's so funny. I feel like now it's here and everyone's like, yeah, okay. You know? Well, am I wrong? I feel like it's here and people are like, yeah, okay, whatever. It's cool, I guess. Yeah. I think it'll be real hot sauce when we get something like Blackmagic RAW in like a Sony or Canon. Whenever we reach that,
exactly.
Under $4,000.
Yeah.
Then it's going to be like, holy snot, Yeah.
But the big thing is even when we have cameras like the C200, the raw image off that is lovely, and it's such a pleasure to grade. But it's just a pain in the ass in terms of the amount of storage that takes up, and the cost of the media for most of those, because the media's all got to be extremely fast. That's going to be able to record that stuff, so it's expensive. And you're just for a lot of the work, certainly that I do, you're generating so much material on a job that it's just not practical to use it. I think I've used it since I bought that camera, which is 18, 19 months ago. I think I've shot one project in RAW.
Interesting.
Everything else.
What's the data
I like
on
the internal
that?
In what, the 264 in the RAW. Jem's the man to ask that question.
Wait, what's the question? What's the question?
See the data rate on the
file size difference.
The
on
RAW
what?
Too.
On the C200.
It's RAW is Cinema Raw Lite is about 1,000 average, I believe, on that camera, as opposed to, forget about the internal codec at 150 when you're shooting MP4, that kind of stuff. That's okay if you're controlling your image completely, but I just really wish that camera had a 300 to 400 megabits per second codec at 10-bit. That's what we're really looking for nowadays. For the base level, it's log, wide gamut, about 400 megabits per second. Really nice if you have a 200 or 150 option in there if you really want to go lighter. So I like that. And from what I've seen, nobody's doing RAW better than Blackmagic right now in terms of the choices that you have within the camera. And I would say Red comes in a close second, but remember that Blackmagic RAW is a sort of hybrid RAW where it's acting more like a video codec inside of your timeline as opposed to a true RAW, processing that you have to have. So, and then I've had some insight, by the way, on the whole issue with ProRes RAW, and a lot of that I think comes down to across the boards, the whole red thing, and I think that's what's sticking that a little bit. So I'm hoping we see more options in post in terms of what we can do with ProRes RAW in the future, but I think that the reason that we're not seeing that more widely adopted in camera systems is definitely because of the red patent and all of that stuff. So that's a sticking point for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Going back up a little bit, G Wiz asked, Caleb, did you ever get around to making that video on the FS700 that you talked about in your Part 3 ProRes RAW video series, which was 1,000 years ago? No, I haven't gotten around to it. I've been quietly acquiring older cinema cameras, and now I'm so I could do a whole series on that, which I still might do, but certain things are coming up that I might need those funds for. So I'm toying with the idea, and with cameras getting cheaper and cheaper and better, an older cinema camera is less hot, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but if an R5 is under $4,000, buying a secondhand cinema camera is way less interesting, you know. So it's interesting, yeah. So we might do it, might not. We'll see.
Yeah, I think we're in a really interesting transitional time right now because we're talking about how it's never been better, but I think what happens in the next 12 months is going to kind of be ridiculous in terms of cameras. We're going to be able to harness image so much better than we've ever been able to with all the cameras that come out in the next 12 months. And some of them are going to be in ridiculous price ranges. I mean, just think about what Blackmagic might do next. There's no reason why the next pocket camera can't just really step up to a whole nother level in terms of what you're going to be able to do, and in terms of resolution and things like that. And hopefully they'll fix some of the ergonomics as well. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm going to just answer a question that was from Shiz earlier, asking it actually follows on. So Bart was asking you, Jem, do you ever shoot with matte boxes or filters? Any preferred filters? And then she's gone on to ask about people still using black Pro Mist even, which I know that we've spoken about really recently because I spotted.
Well, you don't need to shoot with a Pro Mist filter if you're shooting Canon because it's already pretty soft. And I can say that, but I like cameras that have built-in NDs. If they don't, then I'm obviously getting NDs. That's the first filter, and then I think that you really have to look at, polarizing filters as your second filters because they really help with reflections. They really help when you're shooting outdoors. I think that's probably the second thing. I use matte boxes occasionally, for sure. And, I use lens hoods, but those are hard to use when you're using very NDs. So you kind of have to adapt to, and that's a little bit of a problem. So if you're using very NDs, you're more likely to use something like a Bright Tangerine Misfit or some of the other ones like the Wooden Camera one. There's some low-cost ones that you can put 1 or 2 stages of filters in. But I'd say more often I'm not using a matte box. And I think that I'm also changing over time in terms of how I think about shooting. You either embrace flares or you don't. But if you're outside, take some advice from the best cinematographers in the world and make sure that your sun is behind your subject matter. That's why, people shoot in certain directions for half the day and other directions in the other half of the day because they want that edge, they want that backlight, and then they're going to do a return fill. So really your key is a back key very oftentimes when you're shooting outside, and then you're filling, and it'll seem like your key is the light that's coming from the front or a little bit from the side, but it's really just returning the sun in terms of what you're doing. So that's kind of an answer to what was asked, but I added some extra crap. Yeah.
Good stuff. For me it's Exum adapters, those magnetic filter adapters. Just straight up ND, no faders, because you get a great shot and then you turn 5 inches and change it a little bit and like everyone's skin turns gray because there's the two polarized, all that stuff. And then Dinkum Systems, their eyebrow, it's like a cold shoe or quarter 20 on your camera cage around the top of your camera, and then you got a arm.
It's like the original Nasty Clamps had that too. When they had the
Dinkum actually was before Nasty Clamps.
Really? Oh,
fun fact.
Nice.
Nasty Clamps stole that. G Wiz asks the C47. Do you guys have camera equipment cart recommendations? Jem, you're our resident. Well, both of you guys are cart.
I mean, if you have money, innovative.
I've only had one. Yeah,
innovative.
Right.
If you have money, you get innovative, and you get a Scout, or you go in and you just shop around. Mag liners are a little less expensive, but much heavier. And if you have no money at all, rock and roller cart, but you have to attach the shelf each time you use it. What do you got? Anybody else?
Well, I would say I'm always gobsmacked by the price of carts. I still just cannot figure like how they are the price that they are. It's insane. So I've been talking to a company about building me some sort of designed to my spec that actually fold up into a flight case. It was a system that it was a company that I'd done some work for, and they make an entirely different product. But I was looking at the components of it and going, like, if you just like took this and then added this and this and this and some clip-on wheels that you already have on this, that's a collapsible cart that will take up no room in your car, but absolutely solid. Take 2 minutes, less than take 30 seconds to assemble. So I'm looking at that route, and then if it works, then I might end up trying to produce them to Floggy or get them to produce them to Flog, because it's just it's if you need one absolutely day in day out, then the cost of things like magliners, it's worth it because they just save you so much hassle. But I still just cannot work out why they cost what they cost.
Can we just have an acknowledgement here? So we have a Norwegian
you
donation.
just Googled it, haven't you? If you just had to Google what knockoff.
I don't know.
Norwegian
I don't know what
krona.
knock is. Yeah. All right. Thomas, thank you so much.
That's 100% what he was typing.
Yeah, of course I was.
US dollars.
Normally it's about 10. You divide by 10 to get it into euros.
It's an amazing super chat. It's right now, I guess XE says $10.75. An amazing. That's a couple of cups of coffee, and that's a quarter of the way to a nice bottle of scotch. So I'm happy with that. Thank you so much, Thomas, and thank you for being here.
You've got more than a bottle by now. In total.
Oh yeah. Oh, today in the show for sure. I was saying just from Thomas though. Everybody love it. In fact, I think you know what I think I really want to do is the coffee machine. I want to have like a special Scotch bottle that has a plaque on it, which would be really cool. It would be the Scotch bottle. If you're okay with that.
Donated.
I'll look back at the. I know it's we got the regulars.
Get your favorite Glenlivet and put like a nice brass plaque on it.
Yeah,
stamped of everyone's names. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Carts. Thank you so much for the donation. That's so kind, Thomas. Yeah. I just wanted to drop in before we moved on. The same with me with the rocket rolling, blah 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 carts. But one that's kind of fun. It's not for every project or gear, but if you go on Amazon and search for Olympia tools.
I knew you were going to say that. I
can't help it.
I have 3 of them. I own 3 of them.
They're amazing, aren't they?
I love them. They're amazing. They're freaking amazing.
They're a 3-tier cart, and they fold up into this cute little.
Come on,
put
a DSLR video shooter. Amazon. Come on, put a DSLR video shooter thing. What is going on? Neil is in the house, and we have another one covering the bald head of Mr. Schofield. I don't ever refer to myself in the third person, except for right now, apparently. I ought to chip in, have learned so much from y'all, plus I still have a job. Well, thank you, Neil. Nice. We appreciate it. Yeah. That is awesome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this. You are part of the crew, a Flasker for sure, and we're happy to have you every time you come into the show. Those Olympia carts are freaking amazing. And we just kind of like roll them out on jobs and we say, okay, this is where this is going to be. Put some audio stuff on there. Put some, less important stuff on the middle tier. And then down at the bottom in the dregs is some stuff that we may or may not access during the shoot. But it's there on standby. And you know what? For small studios and stuff like that, what are they? $60 to $90 US each time you get them.
$66 right now.
They're Rockstar carts. For sure. Love
these are the ones that are like for catering. They
look like that.
At a conference.
They can be used for anything, really.
Kind of, but they fold.
What
they
are the
fold
wheels
up
like
really.
On them?
They're all right. I mean, you're not going to roll them over outside.
There's blog posts and YouTube videos of guys like modding them, buying one and then like modding them to be a little more pro.
But they fold up. They fold up into like this much, so they're full cart, and then they just fold up. And they take up almost no room in your vehicle, and they'll even go into a hatchback and stuff. So I think I would put that in the Rockstar category. Love them. They're awesome.
Cool. Wow, that's a long link. I'm trying to
do a smaller link. Do your thing.
There we go.
Small brown
Not
fox is
affiliated.
behaving.
Just a normal link. Hopefully it'll show up. But yeah,
Oh, you
Olympia.
can put you guys can put affiliated links in these chats. Come on, we're in. It's totally fine. Okay. We got 10 minutes. Where are we going? Where are we going, Captain?
Sorry. Yep. Right. Back to the chat. Let's see. You guys see any questions while I line the next couple up?
Oh yeah. Let's see.
Wondering if a redesign of the Ursa Mini Pro is around the corner. 6K dual ISO. Some adjustments to the body. Thoughts? FSC47.
I think highly likely. I think what I would imagine would happen with the Ursa Mini Pro as a replacement to the G2 or as an additional camera, because the G2 is pretty solid. You know, people are pretty happy with it, is a full frame version of that. And I wouldn't be surprised if they went to a 5.9 or 6K sensor. There's no reason why they couldn't do a sub $10,000 but close to $10,000 US version of the Ursa Mini Pro. And it seems like it seems like they like to stick with, you know, form factor for quite a long time, except for the original Ursa, which was, we'll just call that a mistake. We'll call that a mistake. And small brown fox, I'll just say, adapting glass to your Fuji's, it's just lens adapters. It depends. You just look at the reviews. I think it's a short answer. I'm adapting Olympus lenses. Other people are adapting Nikon lenses. But, you know, just know that the lenses that Fuji make are great, and a lot of them are very cost effective. So if you want vintage, then for sure adapt. But I don't know if I would be adapting. Like, I still haven't bought a Canon to X-mount adapter because I don't feel compelled to do it. I don't know. That's me. Yeah.
Really?
Okay.
You haven't?
I don't think... No, because I don't want those big honking lenses on my camera.
Wow.
I don't know. Oh, by the way, the MKX lens... I don't think I have an adapter. Maybe I do. I buy so much crap. The MKX lenses, which are the 18-55 and the 50-135, those in X-mount right now are $1,000 off. And they're not cheap. They're $3,000. They're $3,000 each US, but for $6,000 you can have the 18-55 and the 50-135. And I'm telling you, you know this, those two lenses are rock stars. They're parfocal. They have virtually no breathing. They're T2.9. I mean, you know, they're super lightweight. And all you do is take that little, I forgot what you call it, the little shoe thing, and you put your plate on that instead of on the camera, and they're super lenses. I mean, I just wish they made them in EF for people.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen.
Ideally full frame, yeah.
Yeah, good luck with that. Well, I mean, the size of them would just get much bigger. If they made them in EFS, they could probably adapt them to EFS, which would be kind of interesting, you know, but it's still, it wouldn't, I don't think they would sell very well if they did EFS versions of them.
You don't think they would?
I mean, I guess what would happen is...
First of all, it's not possible, but theoretically.
No, theoretically, yeah. Because I mean, they'd have to redesign something fundamentally about the lens. Yeah. But if they did it,
they would look like every other giant cinema zoom. You know,
it has to be because of what? It's just the flange distance, but then they have to add more glass and everything, right? It's the whole thing.
Yeah, you can't just staple on a certain thing on the end. You got to completely redesign it, and it's got to be huge. Which is why those are so awesome, is they're tiny.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a very compelling. Like, if Fuji can keep moving forward with what they're doing with their cameras, even if they don't do a small format digital cinema camera, and they can just do, you know, the next generation of what the X-T4 is, there's no reason why. I mean, can you imagine if Fuji licensed Blackmagic RAW, and then you put those MKX lenses on there? I mean, that would be Rockstar right there.
Fuji and Sigma, I think, are great contenders for that. I really hope they do something like that.
Yeah, but you know, the thing, I'm going to say this out loud. I probably shouldn't. I think that Sigma is fundamentally a lens company, and I think that FP is a great entry into the market. I don't think unless that magically should we say, smagically becomes like a wildly successful camera, that they're going to keep R&Ding along that line. But Fuji definitely is, and they're definitely going to keep moving forward with their, APS-C and their medium format cameras.
Yeah.
So
along those lines, if anyone wants a Sigma FP, let me know. I'm selling mine, and I'm probably not going to review it. But the long and short of it is, if you shoot DNG, it's unbelievable.
Right.
Buy it. Raw full frame for $1,700 or whatever. It's awesome. You use the Blackmagic Blackmagic color space in Resolve, and you can do so much with that camera. Anything other than raw, poop.
Okay, we're getting close, but guess what we got?
Like you said.
What?
Like you said, though, amazing first time,
amazing
full frame camera. Unbelievable.
Yeah, amazing. And here we have another super chat.
Whiz.
Oh yeah, coming in at the end of the show as he does, like he did last week, a super $14.99. Is that Australian? Is that what we're doing? Is that AS?
I think
Is that
so.
Australian?
I think
Come
so.
on. Okay. Well, I'll take it. It's beautiful. We'll take it. It's lovely. I wish we were going to Lotus of Siam, because man, can you imagine how many Singhas we would be drinking with all of these super chats? It would be beautiful. Maybe we'd start with a Scotch. Awesome.
Next year, it'll happen. It's just down the road a little bit.
Oh yeah. Or we're gonna have to come up with something else, gentlemen, where we have our own thing, and we'll see how this all plays out.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Caleb, I have a question. What do we talk about next week?
I don't know, boys and girls. What should we talk about? Too soon for another challenge? Something
I'm
else?
always up-
Another topic?
I'm up for a challenge. What other categories? I don't really want to do audio next week. Lighting could be okay. There's so much chatter about cameras right now. But what would be an interesting thing with cameras? Like, could we do a challenge where we're allowed to spend in 3 price tiers and see where we come up with and what cameras we buy as our core camera system in those price tiers or something like that? Ooh. Clay, same Home Depot or, that kind of... Home Depot's hard because, it's not that hard. But, yeah.
I like the idea of that, though.
Well, I like the Cine Reflect light system from the Lightbridge, and I have some of their stuff, but I don't think Ben and Caleb have any experience with that. So I think that's going to be a tough one for a challenge, because you kind of have to get your head around that whole kit. 2 lenses, 1 camera, Shiz says. Maybe that's sort of dialing us down into where we need to be, Caleb. Well, we got a thumb down. I don't know what the thumb down is for. Is that what's going on? What are we getting a thumb down for? Just no Canon
M50 this time, Jem.
Hey, let me just tell you, small brown fox. Listen, small brown fox. I have a lot of lighting and audio in that kit. I can replace the camera, but I'm set on my challenge. I'm holding to my $37.99, kids. All right, emergency do-it-yourself solutions. Interesting. We've done some stuff sort of like that. Gentlemen, any other ideas? What do you got?
I'm trying to think. There's a couple of things we could do that would be different. One, I don't know if there's a way we could all collab together. Like one of us picks a category. We each have a category we're responsible for.
Yes.
And see what comes together. Or just something crazy like we don't know what we're each picking, but like one person picks a camera, the other person picks lenses.
Yeah.
And then someone else does lighting, and I don't know, something like
No,
that,
I love the collab. I think that we have to what we have to do is we have to assign the camera to one person. We have to assign the lenses to another person. But what's the third thing that makes it interesting? Because you can't just say lighting, because then that's its own category.
Lighting.
So
and
what
sound?
do we do?
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
what you mean.
Yeah, it's like really fun with the camera lens combination, but it's not as fun once you get into another. I mean, I love that idea where we do a collab, but there's sort of a little bit of nobody knows what the other person is going to do while we're choosing that stuff. Yes, that morph video from Caleb was sick. It was great. And very cool. Yeah. Yes, I like that very much. Video podcast kit for 2 hosts and possibly what?
I think I have
Tell
an
me.
idea too.
I'm
let
ready.
me see if it'll work. So have you
you're
heard of the
excited.
Wayback Machine on the internet?
No, it sounds like it could
Wayback
hurt a little
Machine
bit.
is a
Yes.
Wayback Machine is a website where you can go there and then enter apple.com, and you can go back in time and see the old Apple website.
Yes.
I think we should pick a budget and we should go back in time
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
to 2012,
I love it.
2010.
Fuck
Brilliant.
yeah.
And
I love
we go
it.
to B&H and we do that. And we pick an old
So
kit, except it's going to be way more expensive.
Okay, but here's what I want you to do. Caleb, I want you
Yeah.
I'm going to this is the first time, this is historical, but I'm going to nominate you for a 2-week host, meaning you're going to host next week because I think you have to be the captain of this. I want you to write this, give us the links, and you need to give us some time. So we need this by Friday, so we have a little weekend time. Absolutely love this idea. And what year is it going to be? It's not 1985.
That's a tricky one.
Watch yourself.
I would say to keep it from being like Sadland, we should pick 2010 to 2013, somewhere in there. Because there's just enough interestingness going on.
Yeah.
Like larger sensor stuff, you know?
Well,
But then,
when were
are we all going to just end up with a 5D? What, you
No,
got a 5D?
no,
get a
5D
5D.
is like 2009-ish.
Yeah,
What's
Yeah, but I
golden
think it was
years?
before that.
Well, I think
No.
2012, 2013 gives us more than just a 5D and a 7D, right?
Okay.
Because
Yes.
you could do the 5D, or you could do something cheaper and spend more on lighting. And remember, lighting is going to be a pair of dirty. I'm trying to keep it cleaner. It's going to be a pile of poo.
It
There's
is.
no aperture,
Yes.
so it's going to get interesting. So I'll have to figure out the technical side if that's possible. What do you guys want? I'm seeing a lot of 2012s. There's three there's three
Caleb,
2012 votes.
Are
Any
you
other
okay on
years?
time? Are
It's
you
fine.
okay on time for a couple more seconds, Caleb? I want to make sure
Yeah.
you're okay. I mean, when were the golden years at NAB? That's around 2012, right? When was the kind
I
of
wanna say that.
Zacuto, Red Rock? Like, we got to get
Yeah.
all the boys and girls in this thing.
2012 was my first year at NAB. So.
But so was it Rockstar then, or was it in like 20?
I think
we don't want
2012. That
Yeah.
sounds good to me.
Okay.
I think so.
And then, man, I love this. Okay.
And then a budget.
If I can figure out we got to pick a budget.
10,000 US?
I was pretty broke at the time, so there.
I mean, is 10,000 a good budget or not?
Yeah, I think that's good. Zacuto viewfinder is going to eat up a good portion of that. Man, this is going to be crazy.
Yes.
Okay. So 2012,
Yep.
$10,000,
Yep.
and I'll see if this is even possible, but I think it is. It might be a little tricky. You may have to do screenshots of each product, or use like a calculator or spreadsheet to put it together. I don't know if you're going to be able to do wish lists.
Yeah.
Because again, we're not using B&H's website. We're using, a capture, which is still, you can still navigate it, but it's different. So I'll look into that and see what's possible.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think that's it, right? I mean, that's what we would. I'm going to post something, by the way. I need to very quickly 10-1, but here we go. I'm going to put in, I think we're going to do a happy half hour after this, and we'll see who shows up. I'm just trying to clean it up in here because I don't mean clean it up that way. But if people can extract that link and that password, then I need to launch Zoom after this. You need to give me about 2 minutes. I'm going to go mute and then launch Zoom, and we'll do a happy half hour for anybody who wants to join, starting at about 4:10 p.m. Pacific time. You guys are awesome, and I love the idea, Caleb. I think it's amazing.
That's genius.
Oh, thank
Yep.
you. We'll see if it works. I don't know if it's possible. If it is, I want all of you to do the same. It'd be great to maybe have some of their kids in there
That'd be
too.
fun.
Yep.
So-
All right. Happy half hour is basically just a continuation of questions that you have having to do with production for the next 20, 30 minutes. We're not going to run for too long. I got to cook dinner for the family and all that good stuff. Pitter patter of little feet above Mr. Caleb Pike, and a bed waiting for Mr. Ben Barden, who needs to be horizontal. Any other things that we want to say, gentlemen? Love doing this every week. That's my last thing that I want to say today, and that's it.
Yeah. Thank you all so much for the comments or the questions, for the donations. There were many donations, so appreciate it,
Awesome.
everybody.
Very cool.
Ben, anything before we wrap up?
I got nothing. It was cool, amazing to hang out with you two as always, and everyone in the chat. And looking forward to this one next week. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh my goodness.
Come on, Jago,
outta here.
coming in the rear. Are we allowed to say that? Is that what you would say?
With
I-
what-
that is
if
a
we-
horrible
if we-
thing to say. Coming.
If we led with drinking beer out of
All right.
a growler, this is fine.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
you
And
guys
full
are
circle
amazing.
to the growler thing. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. Thank you for the donations, and check Jem's thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, have a good night.
You guys
Godspeed.
are awesome. Okay. All the best.
Good night.